Okay, so welcome to the October 24th Carpenter Working Group. I think we can just get right into it. At the moment, at least from the AWS side, we don't have any project updates to give. I don't know if anyone is here from maybe Azure or somewhere else that has any project updates. Don't think so. So unless anyone speaks up, I think we can head on to RFCs. So, okay, we've got two on the docket at the time being. I guess we can start off with node repair. Emmanuel, do you want to talk on that? Yeah, I'll go ahead and mute.
Yeah, so here we have an RFC for a node repair. The idea just being that there will be at least for these implementations, we expect to have some diagnostic agent be able to run on a node, and then cloud providers will be able to define specific status conditions to monitor for, and then Carpenter would then orchestrate a replacement of that node. If you guys have any comments, please, comments, concerns, questions, feel free to ask them now here. Add any comments on the actual RFC. If we don't get any, the idea and hope is to potentially update the RFC and merge it probably tomorrow. This has been open for a couple of days, so we would like to move quickly on this, just so that we can offer a solution for customers. Yeah, so if nothing else, then we can move on to the next RFC.
Switch. Okay. All right. I think we can go ahead and move on then. So this next one is going to probably look pretty familiar. So maybe a couple of months back now, we reviewed a RFC in the upstream Carpenter provider, or sorry, not upstream, the AWS Carpenter provider for on-demand capacity reservation support. So that has since merged in the AWS provider, and we're now opening this RFC, which doesn't have anything new, but it is the core aspects of that original RFC. So any of the cloud provider neutral requirements that would live in the upstream library. So I think this has already been pretty well reviewed. So since it's been reviewed by a lot of the community for AWS already, similarly, we're going to try and move relatively fast on getting this merged. If there's no contention, we're planning on merging on Monday. So yeah, this is just basically a discussion of the addition of the reserved capacity type and how that is going to impact provisioning and consolidation. So yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on this unless anyone has any questions, since we've already looked at it in a few previous working groups. Okay. I don't see anything, so I think we can head on to community questions. Right now, this is totally empty, so if anyone has a question they wish to ask, yeah, feel free to just go for it. And then if no one has any questions, we can probably end early today. Vishal, I see you're unmuted. Are you trying to talk? I can't hear you if you are.
I guess yeah. I'm just trying to kind of considering how to word the question I have, but it's kind of an overview. This is my first time joining in on one of these working sessions, so I guess I came in not necessarily knowing how it would go, and if my question is kind of too much or isn't something that would be answered here, feel free to defer.
Well, I think we have plenty of time, so.
Okay, cool. So I guess it mostly revolves around scheduling. I'm pretty new to Karpenter. Like I've been working with Karpenter for the past 2.5 months now on an implementation upgrading to EKS 1.30. And so essentially my use case is that I'm running Karpenter as the autoscaler for the cluster. And I'm trying to run, are you familiar with Jupyter Hub and Dask Gateway, those two services?
Not by name, at least.
No, so it's just like a provision server for our users to be able to access Jupyter notebooks and spin up Dask clusters, which is like a distributed computing framework. And so we have another server on the cluster called Dask Gateway, which Jupyter Hub can access. And so there's just essentially a lot of pods that can get spun up, and a lot of resources that get spun up based on the amount of workers that are being provisioned by the scheduler from Dask. And then there's also a lot of cluster resources. So I guess like I don't know the best way to kind of schedule pods onto nodes and schedule pods so that they don't necessarily go onto nodes. I'm currently employing labels and taints, but I have like a set of cluster add-ons that I'm not necessarily directly installing via Helm. I'm just going through Terraform and not really seeing the chart at all. So I'm not setting any kind of tolerations or any labels or anything. So my strategy here has been to kind of create like a catch-all default node pool and try to use that to pick up a lot of those resources that I'm not necessarily specifically labeling. Whereas like with Jupyter Hub and Dask Hub, these other managed services that I've implemented, I can set the labels and I can set taints on nodes. But I'm finding that I'm still, even with labels and taints and weights and stuff and kind of going through your guide, I'm still finding that pods will kind of end up on nodes that I didn't think that they should have ended up on. And I guess, do you guys have any sort of a strategy for employing that, like a default node pool, that will just kind of catch pods that don't have labels or aren't intended to go onto a specific node? Or the best workaround I've been able to figure out was like just not using the same instance type so that there's no kind of crossover between the default node pool and a node pool that I have set up. I'll let you answer. Sorry, there's a lot.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I think generally you've already talked about like the two techniques that we'll generally use to partition workloads is like label selectors and taints. So it sounds like with this default node pool, you don't want to necessarily have any taint on it because you don't want all of your default workloads to necessarily need to tolerate it.
Exactly.
I imagine, so the workloads that you don't want to go against it, did you say you did have a label selector on them that would like select a label that shouldn't exist on the default node pool?
So I have I have a default node pool and I have like, for example, a main control node pool. And the main control node pool is it has a required label that's like main control, right? And then it also has a taint that's set up on the node when the node's provisioned, that's just main control. And so then the pods and the resources that I have going that I want to go onto that node pool have the node selector label at main control, and they have a toleration for main control. But where I think I'm running into issues is that, like, for example, those two node pools both have M5 as a possible node that they can provision onto. And so when I initially start up the cluster, everything kind of lands in the default node pool, right? Because I haven't deployed any of these other charts yet manually. And so that's fine. But then those nodes come up, and if I get an M5 or if I get like a shared node with the other node pool, Karpenter will like provision it. It will say it's using the main control node pool, but then it will still place those pods onto the node that the default node pool originally used, and it will then apply the label to that node. But it won't apply the taint. I don't think it's applying the taint, at least.
So you're saying Karpenter is applying this like control label to an existing node that didn't previously have it?
Yes.
Yeah,
Or maybe I'm getting mixed up.
it does have dynamic labeling, but not dynamic taint. I guess it depends. So I wasn't fully listening. It will be good if you have an issue that you can show the node pool spec. It'll be slightly easier to understand.
Yeah, I could absolutely show you guys the node pool spec if that's okay with me sharing my screen.
I actually don't know if I'm able to give permissions to do that.
Okay.
Um,
I also I apologize. I don't know if this is the purpose of this meeting. I guess I wasn't totally clear. I don't want to derail. And you guys said you have time, but yeah, I can definitely open an issue and share there as well if that's the better route.
I think opening an issue is probably going to be the most productive, just
Okay.
because it's easier to refer back and forth between resources and stuff.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm getting kind of jumbled up trying to communicate the issue to you guys too without showing it. So I think that's probably the best path forward.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
Okay. Well,
at a
Go ahead.
high level, like I think I could be wrong, but Karpenter applies labels to nodes it's being created, but it doesn't do it for taints, I believe.
right. And that's kind of like, I guess the not necessarily the issue. The issue is that obviously the way taints work, the pod is not looking to see if a taint is there in order to schedule onto a node, right? It's looking to see if a taint is there to not schedule onto a node.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like, I think the crux of the issue that I'm running into, which isn't really an issue, is just kind of how it's designed.
Well, for Karpenter to generate these dynamically valued labels, you need to explicitly add a requirement with the exists operator to the node pool. So it shouldn't do this by default.
Right, yeah.
Right. I have that. I have the requirement. I have a key for the label in the as a requirement.
Mhm.
But do you have exists as the operator?
Yeah, so if you have
It's
this,
a very specific requirement for it to label the thing. Here's the
Yeah,
link.
let me look. I'm pretty sure this exists and not in, but yeah, this was something that I found in the docs like 2 days ago, hidden away somewhere. Because originally I had just thought it was I didn't know you had to do that. Sorry, I'm just trying to find my code.
yeah, I think either way, if you're able to open an issue,
Yeah.
I recommend opening one against the upstream repo, since this is scheduling related.
Okay, yep. And if it is important, I'm also on 1.0, so this is the or 1.06, so this is the latest.
Okay,
The
awesome.
latest.
Yeah, if you can just include your node pools, like your workloads, your pods or deployments, we should
Yeah,
be.
definitely.
All right. I think unless there's anything else, we're probably good to end it.
Yeah, I got nothing else. I appreciate you guys letting me chime in there and try to get that figured out.
Yeah, of course. All right. Thank you all for coming. We'll end early today and see you guys in the next Monday meeting. Thanks.